And then the next piece is imagining what this other person or people that you were in this situation with might be needing. I just want you to pause and to take a breath. And to take a moment to feel this level of empathy and compassion for yourself and for this other person once you've unpacked these simple steps of feelings and needs. While it's not creating a solution and the outcome yet, what it does create is it brings us back into feeling, and that is a theme today. It brings us back into self-responsibility. It brings us into this place of overall compassion for ourselves and others. When we can understand what we feel and what we need, and also imagine potentially what someone else might be feeling and needing, we are now empowered in a state inside of ourselves, physically, emotionally, energetically, and psychologically, that we are clearer to approach this person to actually have a physical, like a real heart-to-heart conversation from a place of non-reactivity and rather from a place of compassion. When we go into a conversation with someone from knowing this, it might sound like, wow, like I can imagine that you are feeling stressed right now because you have all these big work projects in your life. And so when you come home, I can also imagine that you were feeling tired, stressed, potentially disconnected from your body. And then when I come at you with my needs excessively, I can imagine that that can create a state of overwhelm. And so when I go into that conversation, number one, what I just started with was showing compassion for this other person. I let them know that I understand to some degree. I can imagine what they might be feeling. So I show them that understanding. So because I opened the conversation with that, that just turned our conversation more into an invitation rather than a demand, rather than me vomiting vomiting my needs onto this person when they're already at capacity. We want to create invitation. So that, again, it starts to soften the heart and it makes it more inviting for the other person to want to come in and understand us. In that moment, depending on the situation, I would ask to schedule a time to have a more in-depth conversation. When might you have more capacity and energy to sit with me and just have heart to heart and connect? I might ask that next. Or if I'm noticing they feel really open and energized and softer to have a conversation that moment, I might simply ask, would you have the energy and the capacity to really sit and be present right now with me to have a conversation? And if not, how do you feel about scheduling something? So again, I'm approaching this from a place of asking and inviting rather than demanding, which softens the whole field around this communication. If the communication is in this moment or if it's scheduled for a later time, I would then go into saying, like, I love you, and depending on who you're talking to, but I love you and I understand. And I was recognizing that because I was missing and wanting this level of intimacy with you, that I began blaming and condemning and fighting for getting that because I felt scared. When you put up your wall, I perceived you putting up your wall, understandably because you felt stressed. I also reacted to that and I felt scared. I felt scared and alone. And when I felt scared and alone, I reacted and projected very strongly my needs onto you versus just being present with what is, So I'm sharing this because this is an example of the format of compassionate communication. So you start with understanding. The next piece, you invite and ask when is a good time to have a heart-to-heart connected conversation. And then you go into expressing through understanding them and the situation what you are feeling and your emotional response, and you're taking responsibility for what you were feeling. I noticed I was feeling scared. I was feeling alone. So in no space within that was I telling this other person, you are responsible for how I feel. You made me feel scared. Your actions made me feel alone, which is often the case in the world, how we communicate unconsciously. So again, you're just taking responsibility for this. The next piece, after you've expressed how you're feeling, it might open up the door for then your partner to express more about not what you imagined them to feel, but what they were actually feeling. And then the next step would be just like the journaling process. Wow, well, what would the ideal situation look like? I might even ask my partner that. What could I have done? What would you have wanted? Well, wow, I right now feel like I would love to sit closer to you. I would love to lie down and cuddle with you. I would love to hold your hand or eye gaze or whatever, if it was feeling scared and alone. So whatever is going to feel like creating that connection again. Sharing with them what you are needing, then asking them. Don't expect them to fulfill that with you. Your partner is not responsible for fulfilling your needs. But that's for another conversation because we're almost at an hour mark here today and we're about to close. But when you share your needs, ask them. How would they feel about sharing this experience with you? To connect with you in this way, to hold hands, to cuddle? Would that resonate for them right now? And be prepared to hear a yes or a no. And in that no, if it was a no, it would be, I would love to schedule a time when we both feel that we're really energized to share this experience of connection together. How do you feel about that? And so now you're in the point of creating strategy for getting both of your needs met. And that's the key. Because what you're doing here is you are creating a playing field where all the players on the team actually understand the rules, the rules of the game, like where you're at. So they know how to navigate on this playing field with you. And that's where communication comes in to create a very successful partnership and team.